Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Friday, it's the end of the week, very nearly. I hope you're having a good day wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Just 24 hours away now, give or take, to Arsenal's return to Premier League action with that tricky looking trip to Brighton tomorrow. Arsenal looking to sort of follow on from that fantastic win at Brentford with what would be another very good win at a very difficult place to go. So Mikel Arteta has just been speaking ahead of that game against Brighton at his pre-match press conference. Thought I'd come on here and go over what Mikel had to say, some of the big talking points. He's given injury and team news updates on the likes of Kai Havertz, who of course missed the game against Brentford due to that sickness bug that's doing the round. He's speaking about Raheem Sterling. There's updates on Tomiyasu and Ben White as well. He's been talking about the January transfer window. He's been talking about the contracts and the futures of Jorginho and Thomas Partey. So plenty to get stuck into today as we really start to gear towards that game against Brighton tomorrow. Let's start then with some of the big sort of team and injury news that we've had from Mikel Arteta today on Kai Havertz. Good news, he will be available for the game against Brighton. By the looks of it, he missed the game against Brentford because of that illness issue. Mikel was asked about whether he was going to be fit. He said, yes, I think so. The ones with the illness, I think they will be okay. Hopefully they will train today. And if everybody is fine, then they should be available. There's going to be no Raheem Sterling, though, but the news is positive on Raheem Sterling as he continues to come back from this knee injury that had him sidelined for the last few weeks. Mikel said, I think he is starting to do some stuff on the pitch. That's great news. As quick as possible, we want him available. Let's see how he progresses in the next week and see if we can get him available for the following week. So I don't know, maybe Manchester United in the Cup. Around that sort of time, it might be when Raheem Sterling becomes available for Arsenal once again. Not going to play against Brighton, but Kai Havertz will be fit. On Ben White and Tomiyasu, remember Tomiyasu, we've had some updates on him. Mikel said Ben is still a few weeks away. Tomi has done some stuff on the pitch, but it's been a long-term injury, and we need to see how quickly he can progress and how he reacts. But hopefully good positive news, I think, there, that Tomiyasu's been back on the pitch. I wasn't expecting that from Mikel Arteta today. I have to admit, I thought it was still some way off before potentially we see Tomiyasu back on the pitch. But, you know, that's positive, maybe, you know, suggests that it might not be too long until he comes into contention. On Ben White potentially coming back and being available by the end of January, Mikel said it might be a possibility, but obviously he hasn't done anything yet with the team. The knee looks good. He's reacted really well in the first few weeks. Everything is going smoothly, and now he needs to start to load that knee and get through many more things that up to now he hasn't been able to do. Hopefully he's good. His work ethic is unbelievable. Naturally, he's a really gifted player. And so, yeah, I mean, that'd be real positive if Ben White could be available before the end of the month. The thing with Ben White, I always thought there's a chance he's going to come back pretty early, Ben White, because just naturally his body is a very, very good healer. And you knew that his rehab and his recovery, you know, he was going to work very, very hard on that. It's kind of similar to Martin Odegaard. When Martin Odegaard had that injury, I always felt that if he was going to get, anyone was going to get back quicker than expected, it would be Martin Odegaard. And I thought similar with Ben White. We'll have to take it very, very carefully. I mean, the last thing you want with Ben White is to rush him in, because the whole reason that Arsenal decided to put Ben White under the knife and for him to have this operation is that he doesn't have to play through pain anymore, because he's been doing that for so long. You know, he's put his body on the line for Arsenal for so long. I mean, playing through pain for so long. They've thought, you can't be doing that anymore. We've got to get this fixed. We've got to get this knee operation done. And hopefully then when you come back, you won't have to play through pain anymore. And so this period of his rehab has obviously got to be very carefully managed to ensure that they don't take any risks. He doesn't come back too early and damage anything that doesn't need to be damaged. So, you know, but fingers crossed, you know, it'd be really, really positive news. I mean, the fact that Arsenal are going to be going into, you would think anyway, going into this weekend's game against Brighton with a midfielder playing at right back, shows Arsenal's need for these two players to be back and available very, very soon in terms of Tomiyasu and Ben White. So, yeah, positive updates, I thought, from Arteta on those two. On Declan Rice and Arsenal having to manage his minutes, I think it's been very, very apparent that Arsenal have been having to do this for a while with Declan, whether it's, you know, bringing him off early or starting him on the bench. Definitely managing Declan. He's been struggling. His body's been struggling this season. Mikel said, yes, on his case especially, he has played so much football. We have 9 games this month, and he had some niggles in the last few games. He's had to come off. We have to manage every player, and he is not an exception for sure. I think of everyone who's struggling a little bit in terms of just the sheer amount of football they have played over the last few years, Declan Rice is right up there. You think even his last season at West Ham, going all the way to the Conference League final, then coming to Arsenal, having the season he had, going straight to the Euros, having to play, go all the way to the final, then coming back. I mean, he's just not had a break for years, Declan Rice. And I think you can tell that his body is struggling to cope with it at the moment. He's not that sort of physical beast that we first saw when he first arrived at Arsenal. He's struggling, I think, fitness-wise and injury-wise, and Arsenal are having to try and deal with that. And I think it's very apparent at the moment that he's definitely not 100%. So Arsenal having to manage Declan when it comes to his minutes at the moment. But those are the latest sort of team news and injury news updates from Arteta. I thought he was actually fairly open when it comes to team news this weekend, which isn't always the case. Right, so on the January transfer window, Mikel was obviously asked about it. We're now 3 days into it. Mikel said, the focus is with the players we have. If something extraordinary is on the market that we can afford and we believe can have a real impact on the team, then we have to be open to that possibility always, because that's why we have the ability to improve the squad in windows. But at the moment, the focus is on what we have. Now, he did talk further on this. And he was asked whether, it's kind of too simplistic to say that for Arsenal to win the league, they have to go out and sign a forward, a new striker this month. And Mikel said, I don't know. It can be a perception. It can be a reality. Signing someone, though, is not enough. That's for sure, because that signing then has to score how many goals? A lot of things has to happen. Sign and then I score 20 goals from here until the end, and then you have a better chance, maybe. But I don't know. I'm very happy with the players we have. If you look at the amount of goals that we score as well, it's more than enough to win a Premier League, and our other numbers as well. But the reality is, if somebody is doing more, that's life. So we have to be better. And he obviously talking about Liverpool there, where he's talking about the reality is that somebody is doing more. And he's right when you talk about the numbers. Arsenal have, what the goals they scored last season was enough to win a Premier League title. Absolutely was enough. But then there's always the argument, there's always this little period of games when Arsenal go through where they don't score. A sort of thing that Liverpool don't do. Liverpool always score, for example. But there's always periods where Arsenal will go through a couple of games in a row without scoring, without creating. We've seen it already this season as well. So I can see both sides of the arguments. And I think, look, when you break it down, it's pretty clear to everyone. And I'm sure it's pretty clear to Arteta and to Arsenal that they need more options when it comes to firepower. And as I've said, this month's a real opportunity for them to go out and to try and fix that. It's not going to be easy, notoriously difficult month to do business in. But, I think it's pretty evident that Arsenal need, if they want to really push Liverpool in the second half of the season, that they need to give themselves a little bit more when it comes to options up front. Mikel was then also asked on whether people have to be realistic about what can happen in January. And he said that market is much more limited than the one in the summer, but I don't know. People's expectations and dreams are something good. So he's saying, don't stop dreaming. Don't stop dreaming about the likes of Alexander Isak and players like that, because it's good, even if they're not really very realistic. So that's what he's had to say on the January transfer window. Before we get on some of your questions, he's also talking about Thomas Partey and Jorginho and their contract situations. Now, obviously, both of these players are out of contract at the end of the season, and they are available now to speak to foreign clubs and to potentially sign pre-contract agreements with those clubs. Now, Mikel was asked whether that was a concern, that they could potentially go out and sign for Barcelona tomorrow. We've seen lots of talk about Barcelona being interested in Thomas Partey, for example, and he is free and available to go and sign a pre-contract with them now, should he wish. And Mikel was asked whether that was a concern. He said it's about close communication with them to understand what their idea is, what they want to do, and express as well our intentions, and then just decide for everybody what the best option is there. It's two players that I'm very, very happy with. They are such value in the squad. I want to keep them in the right frame of mind, because the most important part of the season is coming now. He then sort of went on and said, what I can say is that it's not about what I want. It's about what those players have in their minds as well, and their situations. I don't want to start to have these conversations now. I want to have this conversation much later, because the focus now has to be on what we have to do in the season. They can understand the intentions, and then we'll see what we can do. I can understand he doesn't really want these conversations now, especially for those players given their age as well. I just think you see it more and more of sort of players who are around the sort of age that Jorginho and Thomas Partey are, that their futures get sorted right at the end of the season rather than at this sort of stage. And I can understand Mikel doesn't want any sort of distractions now. It's all about the football. There's so many games every 2 or 3 days. That has to be the focus, and trying to win trophies has to be the focus right now. And he's right when he talks about those two situations as well, as it's not just about what him and the club want. It's about what the players want as well. You know, Thomas Partey and Jorginho, Arsenal may well offer them a 12-month extension, something like that, but they could be getting 3 or 4 year contract offers from somewhere else abroad at the moment. And if that's what's best for their family and their sort of job prospects at their age, then it doesn't really matter what Arsenal want or Arteta wants. It kind of, you know, it's just the players' views when it gets to their age is so important in terms of what they're going to do and how they're going to sort of bring the curtain down on their career. You know, and it's still far too early to talk about like Thomas Partey, for example, at the end of his career, because he's still showing he's at the very top level at the moment. He's producing football week in, week out that shows he's still more than capable of producing it at this level. But he's still, you know, once you get over that sort of the bridge and of 30 and you start sort of looking towards the end of your career, you've got to really sort of weigh up your opportunities when they're being offered to them. And I imagine those two will get some very tempting financial offers come over the next few months that are potentially going to be far more financially beneficial than what Arsenal potentially might offer them. So there's lots of things to weigh up when it comes to those players and their futures. But that's what Mikel Arteta had to say about them today. Right, moving on to some of your questions and comments. You know, we've just been talking about Thomas Partey, and you know, it's as much as I don't want to see it, I still think the most likely option we're going to see tomorrow at Brighton when it comes to the right back situation in during Timber's absence, of course he's suspended, is that Thomas Partey is going to end up at right back. And I say that because just past history suggests that will be the case. You know, you don't have to go back very far to find out when Mikel has to make this decision on who's going to play at right back. If it's not going to be Timber, it's normally Thomas Partey. And so that's why I think it probably will happen, even though I don't want it to happen. Lots of you guys have been getting in touch discussing the right back situation for the game against Brighton. Vet Para says, you know how Arteta sometimes likes to play a right-footed left back against Salah? Given Timber's suspension, do you think there's a chance he plays a left-footed player versus Matoma, say Calafiori at right back and MLS at left back? Do I think there's a chance? I mean, it's certainly the chance that I would like. It's certainly something I would like to explore, I have to say, because that allows Thomas Partey to stay in midfield. We've seen Calafiori play at right back before, briefly, for Arsenal. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly has shown he's such a talented footballer, such a clever footballer as well, that I think he could easily play there and play there pretty well. It's definitely something. There would be my first choice option. Basically, would be finding a solution to the problem like this, rather than moving Thomas Partey to right back. Again, I don't think it's what Arteta will do. I think Arteta will go with Thomas there. But I would ideally play probably Lewis-Skelly there, I think, because I just think he's good enough to do it. And then that you can do what you normally do in midfield for me. So yeah, I do think it's an option, Vet Para, but I'm not sure it's one he's going to take. Aaron says, with Timber suspended due to yellow card troubles, it very likely we see Partey at right back against Brighton. Such a shame because he performed so well in midfield. Wouldn't there be the other way to let Partey play in midfield, such as Nichols playing right back? I just don't think Nichols is ready. You know, he's not like someone that Arteta has had around the squad a lot. He clearly doesn't think he's, you know, at that level yet and ready. I just think it's not. I just don't see that as an option for this weekend, I have to say. Nick says, my picks for right back are Calafiori for 65 and Partey for 25. Then everything is looking quiet. Run down the clock with Rosiak. And him and Heaven are the next to come off the production line. Rosiak has a technical level and has a sweet dead ball. Heaven is nearly there. Both will get into the level where I would start pulling them into first team training and the odd little run out. They do train quite a bit, those two, with the first team. I like Rosiak. And like you said, he's very good in the dead ball situation. No doubt about that. He's a talented kid. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, certainly not for Brighton this weekend. It's too early for him. Interesting to see what happens with Rosiak, to be honest, and Aiden Heaven as well in terms of his long-term future, whether he signs a new contract at Arsenal or not, because there's plenty of interest in him from elsewhere. Mario says, do you think that Rice could be a replacement for White at right back? Given that all the unanimously hate seeing Partey at right back, I feel Rice comes close to all the attributes that White brings to the table: athleticism, tenacity, running power and crossing. It would mean he could stick to the same midfield and the right wing can hold down the fort while the left side bombs down at Brighton. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why it's just always Thomas at right back, because like you said, Ben White, Declan Rice has absolutely got the attributes to play there as well, but just doesn't seem to be something that Arteta considers. But you're right to point out that I think he has all the attributes to play that role if need be. Christoph asked simply about the back three against Brighton. Mikel Arteta is a third choice third choice centre back, which it does make a lot of sense to be able to do that. The only thing is, I can't see Arteta doing it, just because I think it'd be so disruptive to suddenly change the entire formation. It's just not something Mikel normally does, is it? And so I'd be very surprised if he went that disruptive just to fix the right back situation, as in to totally change the system. I think it was just a little bit too much, I think. But Calafiori, left-sided centre back, it certainly makes a lot of sense. And then you'd probably have Gabriel as the centre central defender, and then Saliba playing on the sort of right side of the three. I mean, the three of them could do it, no doubt about that. And then you'd have to play wing backs, wouldn't you? But yeah, I don't think he'll do it. But it's definitely a good shout, Christoph. Thank you very much for getting in touch. Nostradamus asked about Mika Biereth. Had a few comments about this. It looks like Mika Biereth is on his way to Monaco, linking up with Flo Balogun, another former Arsenal player. Had a very good time, I think, since signing for Sturm Graz, obviously, and now looks like he's going to be heading to Monaco in the January window. Nostradamus says, looking like Biereth will be linking up with Flo Balogun at Monaco. Any idea what the fee will be? We will receive will be from the deal. Also, are there any links to Danny at Juve, as Timber definitely needs cover at right back, and Danny has been told he can leave the club. Arteta work from a City. I haven't heard anything on that, no. And I think the fact that Ben White potentially could be available this month, I can't see Arsenal going out and signing a right back. In terms of Biereth, I don't know the exact figure on the sell-on, but it is a significant one. And so Arsenal will get a good deal. I haven't seen any rumours yet in terms of the actual price that Monaco are going to be paying Sturm Graz. So we'll have to wait and see what that is. But Arsenal's sell-on is significant. I would suggest it's around the sort of 30-40%. But that's a bit of a hunch. I can't remember if I was ever actually told the number during the time that he sold, that he went. Because I don't write that much anymore. I can't go back and check what I wrote at the time of it. I'm pretty sure it's definitely a significant one. I remember having conversations about the sell-on clauses that Arsenal had included in a couple of the deals that they'd done in the summer that were very, very, heavily weighted towards them should a big move materialise for one of the players, and Biereth was one of those. So, if say he goes for 20 million, I would suggest Arsenal are certainly going to be getting, probably, I don't know, you'd be getting probably £3 or £4 million of that will be coming to Arsenal. So, which will top it off nicely in terms of the transfer fee that they've got for him. So yeah, congratulations to Biereth anyway, if that move does go through. But Arsenal will definitely be receiving a significant sell-on clause, chunk of money because of that deal when it goes through. Hussein says, I think you described Mourinho unfairly. He's a really top midfielder. He's just not on speed like some of the other players, and that will come on slowly. His ball control is top. Technique is, oh my God, he is a threat on the pitch. You can see you can't bully him on the field. Very comfortable on the ball. Remember when he came on against Chelsea, I was like, wow, this man is top. And I'm really confident that if he plays regularly, he will end up proving his doubters wrong. The Bees, he was amazing as well. I'm surprised. I can't remember how I described him, but I thought I was pretty complimentary about Mourinho yesterday. And I thought it was unfair, some of the criticism he gets. So I'm not sure how I described him for you to say, I think it was unfairly. I think what I said was is that maybe he doesn't get some of the credit he deserves because of the sort of player he is. He isn't this, thrilling type player who will beat four men or, do anything outrageous like that gets people off their feet. But he's just very, very effective in what he does. And I think you can see that, and he's growing into the team. So, yeah, I'm not sure what I actually said to be unfair about Mourinho. I think he's a very good player, and I'm sort of excited to see how he's going to progress. Mikel was asked about Mourinho actually in his press conference today, and he said, when he was asked about his time so far, he said, we expected a very fast integration because he's played in this league and he's such an intelligent and experienced player and he fits in very well. He had, though, an injury and another little niggle, and he had no preseason because he played for Spain as well, and it took him a while to start to get set. But now you can see the impact he has on the team, his intelligence and the goal threat that he offers to the team. Then more and more will come because he's a natural leader as well. As he grows in the role, I think we'll see much more from him. So that's what Arteta was saying about Mourinho today. And I think he's right. I think Mourinho's definitely going to be someone who's just going to get better and better, I think. And I've been impressed of late with him. So yeah, I'm not sure how I described him yesterday, but I wasn't trying to be unfair. I was trying to back him up a little bit, I have to say, on Marino. Neil says, hi, Charles. I was wondering on things regarding transfers as the window is now open. We have had big success with agreeing moves with players before agreeing with the club. How is that any different from tapping up like Liverpool did for Van Dijk and had to publicly apologise for? The difference here is obviously Liverpool got busted actually talking officially to Van Dijk. You know, everyone talks to the agents behind the scenes and make sure that players want to join them before they go and put bids in and stuff like that. So there's lots of talk goes on with players and stuff gets agreed with agents and stuff like that. But there's no sort of sit down face to face. You're not allowed to do the sit down face to face talks with players unless anything is agreed with the club first and you get permission to talk to the player. But clubs will always be talking to the agents behind the scenes just to sort of lay the groundwork, know if the player's keen on the move or not before they go in, because there's no point going any further down the line for a transfer if the players doesn't want to join you in the first place. So you always do that groundwork behind the scenes, and that's what Arsenal will be doing with players and targets. They'll be talking to the agents and, you know, getting everything set as far as you can before you make that offer. Liverpool, obviously, with Van Dijk was a little bit different. That was full on sort of tapping up that they got busted doing, very similar to when Chelsea, you know, got caught talking with Ashley Cole at the hotel, you know, way back when that whole scenario. You know, that's something you can't do. But what you can do is talk to the agents and stuff behind the scenes, that sort of thing. So that's why it's a little bit different on that. All right, that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I appreciate it as always. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm heading to Brighton in the evening. I will try and do a preview show in the morning, though, going over the predicted 11, that sort of thing. So anything you want me to discuss in that, give me your predicted 11 for the games, what you'd be doing at right back, all that sort of thing. Let me know in the comments below. I'll pull them together as always and get them included in tomorrow morning's show. Until then, enjoy your Friday. Speak to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.